Hello everyone, could you hear me?
Yes, we can able to hear.
Thanks for confirmation.
Yeah.
Online people, can you please confirm my voice is audible?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
I hope you are able to see my screen also.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for late meeting. Offline one activity is going on. Okay, so just wait for 5 minutes. So we'll start the class. Sorry for late today.
Sir, meanwhile, can you clear my doubt in the earlier classroom?
Yeah, please ask me. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, like actually, while I was downloading the Cloud SDK, the download is failing, right? It's saying that connecting to host.
Okay, so downloading is failing, or after downloading installation is failing?
Yeah, the installation is failing.
As part of installation, it is given the error. Okay, and I
Yes.
hope you downloaded the Windows one, or you downloaded which version of the
Windows 1 only.
Windows only? Okay, actually, sorry, Alice. Earlier, after completion of the class, my admin team by mistake they closed the meeting. Okay, after completion of this class, you can share your screen, and with that I can able to resolve the issue. Is it fine?
Okay. Actually, I've tried using the Stack Overflow also. They said install with batch. So that is also.
Yeah, actually, we have some other options from the PowerShell also. We can do this installation. So I will guide you for that. No issues.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, earlier class by mistake, my admin team stopped at the end of the meeting, so that's the reason I could not able to connect with you. So after this class, we'll connect once, and you can do the screen share, and with that, I can resolve the issue.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Done. Okay, let's start on it. So actually, day before yesterday in the 11:45 AM class, so we started discussing about the database concepts. So what we covered as part of the session, we discussed about.
Hello.
Excuse me.
Are you able to hear me? Yes.
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. Hope you are able to audible my voice. Online people, my voice is audible, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so just we start the class only. So actually on day before yesterday, we discussed about the database concepts. So on that day, we discussed about different things. So as part of database concepts, first we discussed about what is the importance of database concepts. And we discussed about as part of real time, where we are going to use the database and how we are going to use the database at high level. So why we discussed about all those things? Because next 10 or 15 days, we are continuously going to discuss about the database concepts. So without knowing the importance of database, you cannot able to focus on these classes. For that reason, we spent 1 day of time to understand what is the importance of database in our cloud data engineering journey. Okay. And after that, we discussed about what is a database. What is a database? Database is nothing but collection of different database objects. What is the purpose of these different database objects? For the purpose of storing the data and for the purpose of maintaining the data, we are going to use all these different database objects. What are the different database objects we are having? We are having tables, views, triggers, and stored procedures. So like this, we are going to have the different database objects. Collection of all these objects only, we can call it as nothing but database. And after that, we discussed about what is a table. What is a table? Table is nothing but collection of rows and columns. And what is meant by row? Row is nothing but this is the instance of a object. And what is meant by column? Columns are nothing but characteristics of an object, or we can able to say attributes of a table, or we can able to call it as a characteristics of a table. That only we can able to call it as a column. Now, in the real time, whenever you are going to create a table in the database system, what are the prerequisites? Compulsory, we need to get the table name, we need to get the column names, we need to get the data type, and we need to get the data type length and also we need to get the constraints of the table also. By having all these things only in the real time, we can able to create the projects. As part of practical sessions also, if you want to create the table, definitely you need to understand what is the table name you need to provide, what is the column name, or what is the data type, or what is the length, or what is the constraint we need to give for that table. Okay. Now, as part of doing the practice, we can give anything. But if you're going to work in the real time, we should not able to give our own table name or our own column names. And that's the reason whenever you are going to create the tables in the real time project, what is the input document we need to get? What is the input document we need to get? We need to get the document called as a PDM document. What is meant by PDM? Physical data model document. Who will provide this document in the real time? Data modelers will provide the PDM document. To provide this document as a data modeler, what is the prerequisite to the data modeler? He need to understand the business requirements. After understanding all the business requirements, based on that, they are going to provide the PDM document. In the PDM document, what we can able to see? We can able to see list of all the tables, and in all those tables we can able to see the table structures, table columns, and data types and everything. And also in between each and every table, what is the relationship? All this kind of information we can able to see in the PDM document. Okay, so all these are the topics we covered as part of our previous session. Today we'll start discussing about the new topics only. So first we'll focus on types of commands in SQL. Now, have we discussed about what is the SQL? No, right? Then what is SQL? Structured query language. Perfect. What is the purpose of this? See, if two people want to discuss compulsory, what they need to do, they need to use a language, right? In the same way, as a user, we are connecting with what? We are connecting with the database system. If you want to communicate with the database system, or if you want to do any kind of operations in the database system, we have to use a language only. So what is the language we are using here? We are using the language called as a structured query language. So in the simple words, we can able to say to connect with database system or to communicate with database system, we are going to use language called as SQL. Okay, just I want to repeat one more statement which we discussed earlier also. Don't think that why we are discussing at this much of basic level only, because in this class we are having IT people, non-IT people, and experienced people and non-experienced people. I need to balance all those folks. That's the reason we are starting from the very basic level. So after 2 or 3 days, you will feel that we are discussing about the advanced topics only. But for now, please, if you know about all these things, well and good. try to refresh your skills. If you don't know about all these things, try to understand everything, whatever we are discussing, because I need to handle all the 60 to 70 people which are present in the class. That's the reason I am discussing from the scratch level to slowly we'll go to our advanced level. Is it clear? So what is SQL? To connect with the database system or to communicate with the database system, we are going to use a language. That language only simply we can call it as a SQL. Okay. Now we need to understand in the database side, we are going to use a language called as SQL. But before going to discuss about the SQL queries or SQL commands, and first we need to understand what are the different types of commands we are having in the SQL. So we are having different types of commands like this. First one, we are having data definition language, or simply we can able to call it as nothing but DDL. So we are having the data definition language, or simply we can call it as a DDL. Next type of commands we can call it as data manipulation language, which is nothing but DML. And next we are having one more type of language called as a data retrieval language, which we can call it as DRL. And one more type of commands we are having it as data control language, which we are calling it as a DCL. And we are having one more type of commands called as transaction control language, which we can call it as nothing but TCL. So like this, we are having the different types of commands in SQL: data definition language, data manipulation language, data retrieval language, and data control language, and transaction control language. And so like this, we are having different types of commands in our SQL or database side. Okay. Now we'll go one by one. First, we'll try to understand when we need to go for DDL. See here, it's very easy to understand when we need to go for what. When it is going to easy, if you understand the basis, then automatically you can easily, you yourself can able to say when we need to go for what kind of commands. And so first we need to understand when we need to go for the DDL. In the simple words, we can able to say, if you want to perform any kind of operations on structure of the table. If you want to perform any kind of operations on the structure of the table, then we are going to use the commands called as nothing but DDL commands. And what is meant by structure of the table? If you are dealing anything with the columns of the table, or if you are dealing anything with the data types of the table, or if you are dealing anything with the data type length of the table, or if you are dealing anything with the constraints of the table, as we discussed, let's see here. This entire thing we can able to call it as nothing but structure. Now you tell me, out of all these 5 things, are we discussing anything about the data? We are discussing the structure, or we are discussing about the data here? We are discussing about the only structure. What is meant by structure? Column names are comes under structure. Data types is comes under structure. Data type length, constraints, all these are comes under the structure. And when we are going to discuss about the structure, we are not discussing anything about the data. We are purely discussing about structure, which is nothing but we are discussing about the table name or column name or data type length, or we are calling it as a constraint. So whenever I'm going to give the statement, if you want to perform any kind of operations on top of the structure of the table, what is meant by structure here? All these 5 things, which is nothing but we can able to say, if you want to perform any kind of operations on these 5 things, then we are going to use the commands called as nothing but DDL. Okay. Now I am saying that if you want to perform any kind of operations, but tell me what kind of operations we can able to perform here. To perform any kind of operations on top of the structure, we are going to use the DDL command. But what kind of operations we can able to perform on the structure?
Create,
We can create, we can update.
alter.
Create, alter, drop. Someone is saying the answer, create, alter, drop only. But those are the comments. But I'm asking about the comments, or I'm asking about the what kind of operations? Create, alter, drop. That is the correct answer. I agree. But I'm not asking about the comments. I'm asking the question, what kind of operations we are going to perform on top of the structure? See here. First one, we need to define the structure. Will you agree? If you want to create the table, what we are doing, we need to define the structure. Now, for example, I define the structure. I given the 5 columns into the table: employee ID, employee name, salary, department ID, and joining date. Like this, I given the 5 columns in the table structure. After 1 month or after 2 months, only my client came into the picture. He is asking that I want to add 1 extra column in this table. In that situation, what activity we are doing? we are defining the structure or we are modifying the structure? As per the business requirement, we are going to modify the structure. That is the one more operation we are performing on top of the structure of the table. So we can able to say modifying the structure. First step, we are going to define the structure based on the business requirement. By depending on the requirement, we are going to create a table with the 5 columns. But after 2 months or 3 months, my client is coming back and he is given the requirement. In this table, can you please add a column? Whenever we are going to add the column, we are not again going to define the new structure. And what we are doing here, whatever the existing structure we are having with the 5 columns, on top of that, we are adding a extra column. That kind of operation, what we can able to call modifying the structure of the table by depending on the business requirements. Okay. In the same way, for example, after 6 months, my client is given the requirement. I don't want to use this table. I want to use the some other table. Can you please remove this table? What is the meaning of removing the table, Andy? Remove the structure of the table. What I'm telling here. So this is the one more operation we are going to perform in the real time on top of the structure. So see here, try to understand. I'm explaining about what kind of operations we are going to perform on top of the structure. So first one, we are going to define the structure. Second one, we are going to modify the structure by depending on the requirement. Third one, we are going to remove the structure of the table. Now you tell me, all these 3 are depending on what? Structure, structure, structure. Now you tell me, if you want to perform these 3 operations, which commands we are going to use? What type of command we are going to use? We are going to use the DDL. What's the reason? What I told you earlier, if we want to perform any kind of operations on top of the structure, any kind of operation, either defining or modifying or removing the structure, all these are depending on the structure only. So if you want to perform any kind of operations on top of the structure of the table, then what kind of commands we are going to use? We are using the DDL commands. First, to try to understand why we are using the DDL commands, and with that, automatically you can able to understand what kind of commands we are going to use as part of our DDL operations. So first one, define the structure. Second one, modify the structure. Third one, remove the structure. All these are depending on the structure of the table. Whenever you want to deal with the structure, we are going to use the type of command called as nothing but DDL commands. Okay. Now we need to understand within the DDL, what all are the commands we are having. If you want to define the structure, we need to use one command. If you want to modify the structure, we need to use the other command. And if you want to remove the structure, we need to go for the one more type of command, and we'll go one by one. If you want to define the structure, any guesses? We are going to use the create. Earlier, someone given the answer create alter drop. That is perfectly correct answer. But I'm trying to explain when we need to use what. So if you want to use the create command, when we are going to use the create? Whenever you want to define the structure of the table, then we are going to use the command called as a create. In the same way, if you want to modify the structure of the table, what we can do?
Alter.
We are using the command called as a alter. And if you want to remove the structure of the table, then we are going to use the
Delete.
okay. Create, alter, drop. These 3 are falls under the DDL commands. And when we are going to use the create, if client is given the requirement to create a table in the database system, or if client is given the requirement to define the structure of the table in the real time, then we are going to use the create command. For example, client is given the requirement, I want to modify the structure of the table by adding the columns, or for example, we are having a table with 5 columns, and client is given the requirement, can you please remove the 2 columns from this table? In this table, I want to maintain the only 3 columns as per the new requirement. Indirectly, what operation we are doing? We are modifying the structure or not? We are modifying the structure, but are we adding the columns or removing the columns? We are removing the columns, and so modifying the structure is nothing but by depending on the client requirement, either you are adding the columns or we are removing the columns. Any kind of operations we can able to perform as part of our modifying the structure. Here, which command we are going to use? We are using the command called as a alter command. Now, in the same way, if you want to remove the structure of the table, here we are going to use the one more command called as a drop command. And so like this, simply we can able to understand under the DDL, what are the commands we are having? Create, alter, drop. Next question, under the DDL, by using the DDL commands, what operations we can able to perform? Define the structure, modifying the structure, removing the structure. Operations are different, commands are different. If anyone is asking about the command, we can able to say create, alter, drop. If anyone is asking by using DDL what operations we can able to perform, we can able to say we can able to perform any kind of operations on top of the structure. What are those operations? Define the structure, modifying the structure, removing the structure. Is it clear? Okay. Now in the same way, next we need to understand about DML commands. What is meant by DML? Data manipulation language. And so when we need to go for DML, if you want to perform any kind of operations on data in the table. So try to understand the difference between both the statements. And the earlier statement, what I'm telling here, if you want to perform any kind of operations on top of the structure of the table, then we are going to use the DDL. Here I'm given the same kind of statement, but what is the difference? Here we are dealing with the structure or we are dealing with the data. Here we are dealing with the data in the table, and whenever you are going to perform any kind of operations on the data of the table, then we are going to use the command called as nothing but DML commands. Now same question, what kind of operations we can able to perform on top of the data?
Adding the data, adding the data, updating the data.
What kind of
Deleting the
operations we can able to perform on top of the data? So I'm repeating the same thing here. Simply we can able to say we need to define the data. Will you agree or not? After creation of the table, we need to specify what data you want to maintain, or what data you want to load, or what data you want to insert, which is nothing but we are going to define the data in the table. That is the one of the operation. Okay. Now, for example, see here. Just I'm giving the simple example, Andy. So this is the table we are going to maintain. In this table, what is the structure? What is the data? In this table, what is the structure? What is the data? EID, ename, location, dname. These are the columns of the table. These columns only we can able to call it as nothing but structure of the table. But what is the data here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, X, Y, Z, A, B. All these things only we can able to call it as a data. Now, after creation of the table, if you want to define this kind of data in the table, then what type of command we are going to use? We are using the command called as a DML commands. Okay. In the same way, what else operations we can able to perform on top of the data? Modifying the data. Will you agree? After defining the data, by depending on the requirements, sometimes what we have to do here, we need to modify the data. For example, in this example only, now coming to employee 83, he is working in the sales department. After 3 months or 4 months, and he got the transfer. He moved to the HR department. Now, what we need to do in this table? We need to change the structure of the table, or we need to change the data in the table. We need to change from the sales to HR, which is nothing but we are dealing with the data, but you are defining the data or you are modifying the data. We are modifying the data as per the requirement. Again, if you want to modify the data, what type of commands we are going to use? We are using the DML commands. In the same way, any other operations? If you want to remove the data from the table, then also we can able to go for the DML commands. And if, for example, just I'm giving the example, employee ID 5 resigned in the company. Then what we need to do? Do we need to maintain this data, or we can remove the data? Simply we can able to remove the data, or we can call it as a delete the data. Again, the same question. As part of removing the record, we are dealing with the data or we are dealing with the structure? We are dealing with the data, which is nothing but as per the requirement. Whenever you want to remove the data also, again, we are going to use the command called as nothing but DML commands. And if you observe here, out of all these 3 operations, what is the common thing again? Data, data, data. If you want to define the data, DML commands. If you want to modify the data, DML commands. If you want to remove the data, then also we are going to use the DML commands only. Overall, if you want to perform any kind of operations on the data in the table, then we are going to use the commands called as nothing but DML commands. These are the operations. Now we need to understand in the DML which commands we are going to use. Any cases as part of defining the data, which command we are going to use?
Insert, update, and delete.
Insert. As part of modifying, we are going to use update command. As part of removing the data, we are going to use the delete the commands. And no need to by heart anything here. Just to try to understand the concept. Once you understand the concept, automatically you can able to understand when we need to go for what kind of commands. Okay. Most of the people will get the confusion. What is the purpose of drop and what is the purpose of delete? Earlier when asked the question, how to remove the structure, some people are given the answer by using the delete, but is it the correct answer? That is completely wrong answer. And whenever you are dealing with the structure, we need to go ahead with the DDL commands. If you are going to use the DDL command here, if you want to remove the structure, which command we are going to use? We are using the drop. If you want to delete the data, with what we are dealing? We are dealing with the data in the table. If you want to deal with the data, we need to use the DML commands. Whenever you want to remove the data, then what we are going to use here? We are going to use the delete commands. Okay, now simple question.
Sir, what about truncate in DDL then?
Yeah, we'll discuss about that only. What is difference between drop and delete. What we can able to say? The simple words.
Delete is
Drop will
Drop
completely
is to
delete the
delete the
table.
structure
Delete
of
will
the table.
delete the row from the table.
Any other answers? Offline people. It's very simple, Andy. Drop. Some people will say give answer like this. Drop to drop the table. Delete to remove the data. Instead of that, we can able to give the answer like this. Drop we are using to remove the structure of the table. Delete we are using for removing the data from the table. If you can understand like this, you can understand, you can remember it very properly, Andy, because drop is falling under what? It is falling under the DDL command. So which is nothing but when we are dealing with a drop, what we are dealing? We are removing the structure. We are not removing the data. Okay. By using the drop command, we are going to remove the structure. But tell me here, whenever you are going to remove the structure, whenever you are going to remove the structure, can we able to see the data in the table?
No.
Answer is yes or no? No. Answer is no. Okay. Whenever we are removing the structure, what is the meaning of removing the structure? We are removing the table names, column names, data type, length, everything we are removing. And if you are going to remove the complete structure of the table, then is there any possibility to see the data in the table? Obviously, no. That's the reason we can able to say whenever you are going to remove the structure, we cannot able to see the data in the table. Okay. Now by using the drop, what we are doing here, we are going to remove the structure of the table. But what about the delete? We are going to remove the only data. Now you tell me, if I am going to run the delete command, whether it is going to remove the only data or structure. It will
Only
remove
data.
only the data. It won't remove the structure, and which is nothing but when we are going to perform the drop operation, simply we can able to say it will remove structure and also data automatically. Once the structure is removing, automatically what will happen? It will remove the data also from the table. But when we are going to use the delete command, what is going to happen? It will remove only the data from the table.
There is one more command, truncate.
Yeah, we'll discuss about that, Andy. So someone is asking about the truncate command. We'll discuss about that. Don't worry. It won't perform any operations on structure of the table. So whenever we are going to perform the delete operation, it is not going to perform any kind of operations on top of your structure of the table. But when we are going to perform the drop command, what is going to happen? It will remove the structure. Once the structure is removing, automatically what will happen? It will remove the data also from your table. This is the way simply we can able to understand what is the difference between drop and delete. Is it clear? Now in the same way, we are having the one more type of command called as DRL. Any cases, what is meant by DRL as we discussed earlier? Data retrieval language. And what is meant by data retrieving? You define the structure.
Extracting the
Nothing but
data.
you define the table. In that table, we define the data, or we loaded the data, or we inserted the data. After inserting the data or loading the data, what is the next operation generally we are going to perform? I want to see the data from the table, or I want to extract the data from the table, or I want to read the data from the table. All these operations only we can able to call it as nothing but retrieval operation only. So here we can able to say to perform retrieval operations on the data from the table, we will use DRL commands. What is meant by retrieval here? We can able to say for extracting the data or reading the data or pulling the data. All these are nothing but falls under the retrieval only, only extracting the data from the table or reading the data from the table or pulling the data from the table. All these are falling under the retrieval operation only. So if you want to perform any kind of retrieval operations, what type of commands we are going to use here? We are using the commands called as a DRL commands, and in the DRL we are going to have the one command called as a select. So with the help of the select command, either we can able to extract the data, or we can able to read the data, or we can able to pull the data. So whenever you want to perform these kind of operations, we are going to use the command called as nothing but DRL commands. Okay. Now, for example, this is the structure of the table, and this table is, for example, EMP. Now in this table, what we are having? You are having the structure, and also you are having the data also in this table. Now from this table, I want to retrieve the data, or I want to read the data. What I can do here? I need to write a command, or I need to write a SQL query. If you want to write the SQL query, which command we are going to use here? We are using the select command. But if you are going to use any kind of commands and either create or alter, drop, insert, delete, update or select, we need to follow some kind of syntaxes here. Whenever we are going to use the select command, just we can give it as select star from emp table. If you don't know about what is meant by star, if you don't know what is meaning of the from, no need to worry, and we are going to cover all these things either today or tomorrow in the detailed way. But if you want to retrieve the data from the table, we are going to use the select command. If you are going to use the select command, we are going to give the command called as select star from emp. Once we are going to run this query, what will happen? What is the purpose of select? To retrieve the data. Once it is going to retrieve the data, what will happen? That data will display into your output screen, and which is nothing but if I am going to execute this query, it will give this kind of output into your output screen. Now tell me, what is the difference between this one and this one? Where we are having this data we are having in the database system in the table, but here what we are doing? We are fetching the data from the table, or we are fetching the data from the database system by using the select statement. Once we are going to run this query, what will happen? This is the output you will get in the output screen, and just to try to understand the difference here, this data we are having in the database system. But coming to here, what we are doing? We are fetching or we are reading the data from the database system. For that, we are using the command called as a select command. Once we are going to run this query, what will happen? It is going to provide this kind of output into your output screen. Where we are having the output screen? Once you are going to install the MySQL, then automatically you are going to see the command prompt, or you can able to see the one white window only. There we can able to see all the output whenever we are going to run any kind of SQL queries. Okay, just I want to give the pause for 1 minute here. Any questions up to here, please ask me. Someone is asking about the truncate command. Don't worry, we'll discuss about that. Any other questions other than truncate command?
Sir, it's a DQL also, you can say that, sir.
Which one?
DQL.
So DQL is nothing but, so see here, DQL or SQL, both are nothing but we can able to call it as the same. Data query language or structured query language, and so either you can call it as a SQL or you can call it as a DQL by depending on our convenience.
I mean, I'm asking select is comes under, I mean, same DRL and DQL are same, or we can't say like DRL and DQL are same.
See here, data query language nothing but you are performing some kind of queries, and but what kind of query we are performing here? If you are not defining that, how we can able to call it as a DRL? See, if you want, I can able to say you can call this is the DRL, or you can call it as a DQL. But what is the perfect word we can able to say here? If I'm going to give the query DQL, query means what? Create is a query, alter is a query, drop also query, insert is a query, delete is a query. All those are the queries only. Then instead of calling it as a DQL, what is the better word we can able to use? Better to use the DRL, which is nothing but data retrieval language. If you want, we can call it as a DQL. No one will stop us, Andy, because it's not a kind of a defined one. We are defining all these things, Andy. DDL, DML, these are the defined ones. But coming to DRL, based on the operations, what we are doing, we are calling it as a DRL. If you want, you can call it as a DQL also. But my suggestion is, instead of calling it as a DQL, better to call it as a DRL. Is it clear?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions up to here? No questions, right? Okay. Now, next one, we are going to use the one more type of commands called as nothing but DCL commands, and DCL is nothing but data control language. But what we are going to control here? What we are controlling? See here, for example, I created the tables. After creating the table, I want to give access to this table for only few users. In my company, I'm having so many employees. For example, I'm having 1,000 employees Sunday. After creation of the table, I want to give the access to this table for only few people as per my requirement. Indirectly, what we are doing? Controlling. What we are controlling? We are controlling the access on the data, or we are controlling access on top of the table Sunday. So here we can able to say, if you want to perform any kind of control operations, we can use DCL commands. What are the control operations we can able to perform here? Either you can able to control data access, or you can control table access by depending on the requirement. Sometimes what will happen is we are going to provide the control on top of the tables. Sometimes what we can do here, we can able to control the data also on the table. So by depending on the requirement, whenever you want to control the data or whenever you want to control the table access only, then what kind of commands we are going to use here? We are going to use the commands called as nothing but DCL, or we can call it as a data control language. Okay, here we are going to have the two commands only. One is nothing but grant, second one is nothing but revoke. So the simple words we can able to say grant we are using to provide access on the table. We can use grant command, and if you want to remove the access on the table, then we can able to use the revoke command. Whenever you want to give the access on the table or whenever you want to remove the access on the table, then we can able to go for the DCL commands only. If you want to give the access, we are going to use the grant command. If you want to remove the access, then we are going to use the revoke command. So these two are the commands we are going to use as part of our DCL commands. But you tell me, in the real-time projects, really are we going to use the grant and revoke? What is our operations as a data engineer, cloud data engineer? We are dealing only with the data, but are we dealing any kind of access controls in the real time? We are not going to perform any such kind of activities only. Then who will take care of these activities in the real time? Who will
Database
control
admin.
access in real time? You can able to say simply DBA, or we can call it as a database administrators. Database administrator will take care of all these kind of activities only. They will control the access on top of the table. They will control access on top of the data in the table. So how they are going to control here? To control the access on top of the tables, they are going to use the command called as nothing but DCL commands. Okay, here just I want to correct one statement only. By using the DCL commands, we cannot able to control the data. What we can do here, we can able to control only table access. If you want to control the data, then we are having some other options. We can go to the views. On top of the views, we can able to create some kind of restrictions. I given the wrong statement, I'm correcting myself only. So when we are going to use the DCL commands here, whenever you want to control the only table access, then we are going to use the type of command called as nothing but DCL commands. Within the DCL, what commands we are using here? We are using grant and we are using the revoke. By using the grant, we can provide the access. By using revoke, we can able to remove the access here. And who is going to perform all these operations in the real time? Our database administrator. As part of practice, we are going to perform grant and revoke if you want. But if you are going to work in the real time, our database administrators will perform these kind of activities in our real time projects. Okay. Any questions again on top of DCL? Please ask me. It's clear? Okay. Then next one we are having the TCL commands only. What is meant by TCL? Transaction control language. What is meant by transaction here? What is meant by transaction? Insert update. Whenever you are going to perform insert operations, or if you are going to perform the update operations or delete operations, and indirectly what it means, for example, you are going to the ATM and in the ATM you are going to withdraw the money. Indirectly what we are doing? You are withdrawing the money from the bank, which is nothing but that we can call it as a transaction. For example, you are going to the bank, you are depositing the money. That also can be called as a transaction. Either withdrawing the money or depositing the money, that is nothing but we can call it as a transaction. Now tell me, depositing the money is indirectly comes under what? Can we call it as an insert? What is meant by insert? We are inserting the data. What is meant by depositing the money? We are depositing money into our bank account. Indirectly depositing the money, we can able to call it as a insert operation. Now, for example, initially you are having 1,000 rupees. After that, again you are depositing the money. Now, indirectly, what operation we are doing? You are performing deposit, but what is happening here? On top of 1,000, you are going to deposit the 2,000 rupees, which is nothing but what we are doing indirectly. We are updating the amount in your bank account, and that also we can able to call it as a transaction. First transaction is a kind of a insert operation. Second transaction we can call it as a deposit operation. So which is nothing but update operation. Now, for example, I am withdrawing complete amount, not partial amount. I am withdrawing the complete amount. That what we can able to call? That simply we can call it as a delete operation. Just for understanding, I'm saying here, if you want to perform any kind of controls on the transaction, then we are going to use the transaction control language commands here. What kind of transactions we are going to perform in the database? Actually, insert is a kind of a transaction, update is kind of a transaction, delete is a kind of a transaction. So these kind of transactions we are performing on our database system. whenever you are going to perform all these kind of transactions, to control these transactions, we will use TCL commands. So to control these kind of transactions, we are going to use the TCL commands here. So if you are going to perform the insert or update or delete, these we are calling it as a transaction. On top of these transactions, if you want to control the transactions by depending on your requirement, then we are going to use the TCL commands. But tell me here, on top of transactions, what we can able to control? I am saying that to control the transactions, we are going to use the TCL commands only. But what is the meaning of controlling the transactions? For example, after inserting,
Commit and rollback.
after inserting or update or delete, you want to save the changes permanently. So for example, I am inserting 5 records. After inserting the data into the table, I want to save the changes permanently. And for example, you are going to open the Word document. In the Word document, you are typing so a lot of things. After typing all the things, what we have to do? We need to save it. Okay. In the same way, in the database system, you are performing the inserts or updates or deletes only. But after doing all these operations, what we have to do? We need to perform the save operation. How we can able to perform the save operations in the database system? By using the TCL command. So for the purpose of doing the saving operation, here we are going to use a command called as nothing but commit. Whenever we are going to give the commit command, what it will do here? It will save all the transactions which are happened on top of your database system. That might be insert or update or delete, whatever the operations we are doing. After completion of all the operations, if you want to save all those operations in the database system, then what is the command we are using here? We are using the command called as nothing but commit. Now, for example, in the Word document only, you are typing a lot of things. By mistake, you type 2-3 lines. You want to revert it. What we can do?
Undo.
Undo.
I am asking the question from the Word document perspective.
Undo.
Yeah, how we can able to
can
perform the
undo.
undo operation? Simply what we can do here, we can able to give it as a control plus Z. So by giving the control Z, what we can do here in the Word document, you saved all the content. After saving the content, by mistake, you typed 2-3 lines only. Now, if you want to revert the change, which is nothing but you want to revert all, you want to remove all such kind of lines. Indirectly, you want to revert the data or you want to revert the changes. If you want to perform that kind of operation in the Word document, what we are using here, we are using the control Z. In the same way, in database system, if you want to revert the changes in the database system, if you want to perform or if you want to revert the changes, whatever you performed only, then we are going to use the TCL command. Here we are going to use the command called as nothing but rollback. Indirectly, we can able to say rollback is nothing but kind of a control Z operation on the Word document. In the same way, just try to give the answer. In the Word document, if you want to perform the save operation, what is the shortcut? Control. Yes. Okay. This control S, indirectly we can call it as a commit. What about control Z? This is nothing but simply we can call it as a rollback. Indirectly, what we are doing here, we are controlling the transaction. What is the controlling we are doing here? Either saving the transaction or reverting the transaction. Whenever you are going to perform this kind of reverting the transactions or saving the transactions only, here we are going to use the type of command called as nothing but TCL commands. We are having the rollback command and we are having the commit command. Once we are going to do the commit, what will happen? It will save all the changes. Once we are going to provide the rollback, what will happen? You can able to revert the changes. Now, one question here. In a table, I inserted, for example, 5 records. Initially, I'm having, for example, 2 records. Just understand the example here, Andy. Initially, in a table, I am having 2 records. After that, what I'm doing here, in a table, I inserted 5 records. Now, in this table, total how many records we are going to see? Total 7 records. Okay. Now, after inserting the records, if you want to save all the changes, what we need to do? We need to perform commit operation. Once we are going to perform the commit operation, what is going to happen? It is going to save all the changes. Now, for example, your requirement is whatever the 5 records you inserted newly, you want to revert the data. Now, what we can do?
Rollback.
Whatever the 5 records you inserted, you want to revert this data, then what we need to do?
We need to delete that one.
Can we able to perform the rollback operation here?
No. We can't do that one.
Can we able to perform the rollback operation here? Answer is
We can do.
no. See here. Revert above 5 records I'm asking. So if you earlier what we discussed, whenever you want to revert the changes, we can able to use the rollback command. That is the statement I am only giving. Now I am asking the question. Here I perform the commit operation, which is nothing but we are saving all the changes. After saving all the changes, now what is my requirement? I don't want to maintain these 5 records, which is nothing but I want to revert the 5 records, and which is nothing but in that table, how many records I want to maintain? Only 2 records. Indirectly, what operation I want to perform? I want to revert the 5 records which I inserted into the table. Now my question here is, if you want to perform this revert operation, can we able to perform the rollback operation? I am giving the answer is no. What is the reason? Very simple here. After performing commit operations, you cannot able to revert the data or revert the changes. So this is one basic thing you need to remember, Andy. I am only given the statement by using the rollback, you can able to perform the revert operation. Till when we can able to perform the revert operations by using the rollback? Till you are not given the commit. Once you are going to give the commit, which is nothing but you are saving all the changes permanently, Andy. Once you are going to save all the changes permanently, after that, even if you are going to give the revert operation, you cannot able to perform the revert operation. Then how I can able to remove these 5 records here? What is the one more option we are having? You are having the one more option called as nothing but delete. Indirectly, what we are doing here, we are reverting the transaction or we are removing the data from the table as per the requirement. We are removing the data. Whenever you want to deal with the data, which kind of commands we need to use? We need to go for the DML commands, Andy. So in the DML, which command we are going to use here? Delete command. So by using the delete command, we are going to remove the data. Now you tell me, our operation is completed. After deletion, again, what we need to do?
Commit.
We need to perform the commit operation. If you are given the commit, then only it is going to permanently remove the data from your table. So this is the way simply we can able to understand whenever we are going to perform any kind of operations. If you want to save all those changes permanently, we are going to use the commit command. And if you want to revert the changes, then we are going to use the rollback command. And one more thing, in all the databases, we won't able to see the commit and rollback. Andy. In MySQL, we are having the commit and rollback. But if you are going to use the Teradata, this is also one database system. In Teradata, we don't have the commit command. In Teradata, we don't have the commit command. Here, every operation is a kind of auto commit. In Teradata, we are not having any separate commit command. Every operation is nothing but auto commit on top of our Teradata. But coming to MySQL said, we need to give the commit command, or if you want to revert the changes, we can able to go with the rollback command. So this is the way simply we can able to understand about the TCL commands. Okay, just we'll go back to the basics, Andy. What is the purpose of SQL? For the purpose of doing any kind of operations on the database system, or if you want to communicate with the database system, we are going to use a language. Which language we are using here? We are using the structured query language, or we can call it as a SQL. Now within the SQL, how many types of commands we are having? We are having total 5 different types of commands. Those are DDL commands, DML commands, DRL commands, and DCL and TCL commands. And when we need to go for DDL commands, don't give the answer, create auto drop. When we need to go for DDL commands,
to define the structure of the table.
Whenever you want only to define the structure or to perform any kind of operations on the structure. Whenever you want to perform any kind of operations on the structure, blindly we can go ahead with the DDL. In the same way, when we need to go for DML, if you want to perform any kind of operations on the data, then we need to go for the DML. DRL, to retrieve any kind of data or to extract the data or to read the data from the table, then we are going to use the DRL commands. What about DCL? To control access on top of the tables, then we are going to use the DCL. Who is going to use the DCL commands in the real time? Actually, our database administrators. And what about last one? Transaction control language. When we need to go for TCL commands, if you want to save all your changes permanently, or if you want to revert the changes by depending on your requirement, then we are going to use the transaction control language. Is it clear? Now, earlier someone is asking the question, truncate command. So what is the purpose of trunk? Please.
How many times we can use rollback, sir? Any number of limited options, sir?
No, you can able to perform only one time only. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So actually somebody is asking about the truncate command. So intentionally I didn't discuss about this Sunday because say again truncate command, we won't able to see the truncate command in all the databases. Again, if you see, take the example of Teradata. In Teradata, we won't have truncate command. But what is the purpose of truncate? Any idea?
It will be delete all the data, not the structure of the table.
For deleting the data, we are going to use truncate command. So whenever you want to delete the data from the table, what we can do here, we can able to use the truncate command only. Now immediately some people can able to get the question, whomever not having knowledge on the database side. So already we are having the delete command. Then why we are having the truncate command? See here, by using the delete, you can able to perform the removing the data from the table, or by using truncate also what we can do here, you can able to delete the data from the table. But here we need to understand difference between delete and truncate. Very simple. Once you delete the data, we can revert it by using our rollback command. So earlier what we discussed under delete is nothing but one of the transaction. If you want to revert the transaction, what we can do here, we can able to use the command called as a rollback command. Indirectly, by mistake or intentionally, whenever we are going to apply the delete command, if data is removed from the table, if you want to revert the data, what we can do, we can able to use the command called as a rollback command. But once you are going to perform truncate operation on the data, what is meant by truncate operation? It is nothing but deleting the data only, but just I'm calling it as a truncate operation. Whenever we are going to perform the delete operation by using the truncate command, then we cannot able to revert that data by using rollback command, which is nothing but truncate will remove the data permanently from your database system. And once we are going to give the truncate command, you cannot able to revert the data by using the rollback command. Whenever we are going to apply the truncate, what it means indirectly, permanently we are removing the data on top of your table. Okay. One more thing we can able to say here. See, delete is going to remove the data. Truncate also going to remove the data. Then in between delete and truncate, which command we need to use? Both are going to perform the same operation. But my question is, which command we need to use really if you want to delete the data?
Delete.
It depends.
Why not truncate?
What is requirement?
See here, if you want to remove all the records from the table, if you want to remove all the data from the table without having any kind of revert operation requirement. So what I'm telling here, if you want to remove all the records from the table at the same time, you don't want to perform any kind of revert operations, then what we can do here? Here better to use the truncate command, because compared to delete, truncate is the very fast operation. So very fast and Japanese, can we able to use the truncate command? What is the disadvantage of truncate? Once we are going to remove the data, you cannot able to revert the data. That's the reason what is the requirement I'm saying here. I want to remove all the records. At the same time, I don't have any kind of revert operation requirement. In that situation, we can able to use the truncate command. Okay. Now, for example, my requirement is from the table, I want to remove only few records. For example, if you see this example here, in this table, I want to remove only employee ID is equal to 5 record. I don't want to remove the other records. Then can we use the truncate command? No, only because whenever we are using the truncate command, it will remove all the records of the table. Just I will add the statement here. Truncate will remove all the records from the table. Okay, but here what is my requirement? I want to remove only the particular records or only the few records as per my requirement. Now in this situation, can we able to use the truncate command? No, here what command we need to use? We need to use the delete command only, because by using the delete, either you can able to remove all the records from the table, or we can able to remove the particular number of records from the table. How we are going to perform those operations, we'll discuss in the coming classes only. At the high level, try to understand by using the delete what we can do. Either you can remove all the records, or by depending on the requirement, you can remove the only particular number of records as per our requirement. That's the reason first we need to understand the requirement. As per the requirement, then we can go for either truncate or delete. Now finally one question, compare to delete and truncate, which is given the best performance?
Truncate is fast.
Okay.
I will add the statement also here. Compare to delete, truncate will provide best performance. But what is the limitation here? Limitation with truncate is you cannot able to perform revert operations or rollback operations. Okay, so just these are the few things we need to understand. And now overall, if anyone is going to ask the question, when we need to use the truncate, when we need to use the delete, what we can able to say? By depending on the requirement, either we can choose the truncate or we can go for the delete. For example, my requirement is I want to remove all the records permanently from the table. Then what we can do here, we can go for the truncate. Why not delete? Compare to delete, truncate is going to provide the best performance. For that reason, we need to use the truncate command for the purpose of removing all the records from the table permanently. Then we are going to use the command called as a truncate command. Okay. Now tell me here one more question. Difference between truncate and drop. Any guesses?
Drop
Here-
is delete whole table.
Drop
What
is
will-
dealing with what?
Structure with data.
Truncate is dealing with what?
Only
Only
data,
data.
not structure.
So whenever we are going to apply the drop, what is happening here? It is
Structure also
removing the
dropping.
structure. What is meant by removing the structure? Automatically
Table also removed.
From names.
Memory space.
Table also removed.
and data completely removed. So whenever we are going to apply the drop command, it is dealing with the structure, which is nothing but it is removing the structure. Once the structure is gone, automatically what will happen? Your data also
Data
will
also
gone.
removed.
But coming to truncate, what will happen? It will remove
Only data
the
will be.
data.
Structure will be there, but that nothing is there.
Yes, correct. Data removed, but structure
Schema removed.
presents in database system as is. So this is the one basic interview question only. So I'm not sure whether nowadays they are asking this question because this is one of the famous question. What is the difference between truncate and drop, and what is the difference between the truncate and delete? That's the reason only just I'm discussing about this. So might be you can able to face this kind of questions also as part of your interviews. For example, whomever is taking the interview, he is having only 2 to 3 years of experience. Then what he can do? He can ask these kind of questions. What is the difference between the truncate and delete, truncate and drop? But if a person is having more than 5 years or 10 years of experience as an interviewer, then what will happen? He won't ask all these kind of questions and he will ask some kind of complex questions. But we don't know which kind of interviewer will come into the picture when we are going for the interviews. That's the reason better to understand the basis, at the same time better to understand the complex topics also. Okay, up to here, any questions? Okay, if no questions, so one question from my side, Andy. How many of you completed installation? Sir, like this. Online people, how many people completed or how many people not completed? Okay, offline people, can you please raise the hand whomever completed? Okay. Okay, now tell me how many not completed? Okay. Now, why I'm asking this question is, do you need any kind of support from my side to discuss about the installation part?
I need a support. I need a support for Google account, sir. Like, so I'm not able to create in the Google account.
No. Here we're discussing about the MySQL and we'll discuss about the Google related questions after completion of the class. Surely. Here my question is, from the MySQL installation side, any help is required from my end? So I can, okay, then I will tell you like this, Sunday. Whomever is expecting the support from my side or whomever want to see the installation from the step 1 to till the last step, please stay in the class, and online people also, please stay in the class, Sunday. And whomever already completed the installation, or if you are feeling yourself, you can able to take care of the installation, you can leave for the class. You can go for the lunch, and again 2:30 we are having the class, right? You can go for lunch and you can come at the 2:30 only. But whomever didn't complete the installation, or if you are looking any kind of support from my side for the installation, please stay here. We'll discuss about all the installation steps. Then you can go for the lunch. Is it fine? Just I will give the 1 minute of time. Whomever want to leave, you can leave.
Thank you.
Online people, please stay. Whomever having the questions on the MySQL installation, whomever having the questions on the GCP account also, both the people please stay. Remaining people you can able to drop off from the meeting.
Sir, only we need to use MySQL or any other database in the.
Actually, we are in the real time. If we are going to work, we can able to see the SQL server, and we can able to see the Teradata, and we can able to see the MySQL and all these things. But if you are having knowledge on the one database set, automatically we can able to get the knowledge in other databases in short amount of time. Because if you want to work in the MySQL, what we are writing SQL queries. If you are going to work in the Teradata, we are writing the SQL queries. If you are working on the MySQL, we are writing the SQL queries. For that reason, once you are going to get the perfect knowledge on one database system, it is very easy to learn the other database system as part of our real-time projects.
Okay. Sir, as a data engineer, we need to perform all these operations while working.
Yeah, see, actually, so here what we are doing is we are discussing about the insert commands for the purpose of inserting or loading the data only. But if we are going to work in the real time, what will happen is with the help of the GCP services or with the help of the Spark, we are going to load the data. But if you want to retrieve the data, again, what we need to do? We need to create some kind of basic SQL queries. At the same time, in the real time, if you want to apply any kind of business transformations also, we need to apply some kind of SQL queries only, or we need to write the SQL queries. For that reason, we are discussing all these things. Indirectly, I can able to say in the real time also we need to write the SQL queries, but we are not going to write the basic queries like insert, create, all these things only. We are going to write the kind of complex query. But before going to the complex queries, we need to have knowledge on the basic queries. For that reason, we are discussing all these basic commands also as part of our classes. Okay.